sunny day. A little windy, but a gorgeous day, eh? Certainly this is the day that the Lord has made. So indeed we should rejoice, and be glad in it. Just a couple of announcements before we begin. You may have noticed that Margita's not here this morning. Well, just to let you know that I got a call late last night that her son Austin tested positive for COVID. So, of course, Margita is worried that because Austin lives in the house, that she may have contracted it as well. So, she's taking the necessary precautions. She will be self-quarantining, if that's a verb. Then she'll be taking a couple of antigen tests to make sure that she's testing negative, at which point she'll return, gladly return. I told her, oh my God, Margita, the lengths that you go to just get a few days off. You know, it's not necessary. You don't have to sprain your thumb and get COVID. And, oh my Lord. Just call Diane Neese. As a matter of fact, Diane's here this morning. Yeah, Diane, she could just give you a call and ask for the time off. But in any event, I'm so lucky. I gave Arlene a call late last night. And because I heard tell that she knows how to play piano, and I begged her. Didn't take much. She's so generous. Begged her, because we have one hymn that I have in the service today that I really like, and I really wanted to have it played, and she said, by all means, I will gladly step in. Now keep in mind, I sprang this on her last night, so she hasn't had a chance to practice or anything like that. So no tomatoes, no heads of lettuce, right? You don't do it to me, so please don't do it to Arlene. She's going to play beautifully. You wait. I've heard it. I heard her this morning. On a happier note, Lynn Burge's mother, Edith Tyson, is turning 104 years old today. 104. Right? That's amazing. And I went out to visit her, this would be a couple of years ago now, just before COVID hit. And, she's a real going concern. There's nothing slowing that woman down. As a matter of fact, I found it a little hard keeping up. But, so Edith, we wish you a wonderful day. And as I always like to say, eat lots of cake. Throw caution to the wind. Just eat it as much as you can. It's your day. And please, do enjoy it. Okay. I've got a question for you. I love to ask you questions. It's the middle of February. So why are you here? I suppose one possibility is, I'm just throwing it out there, you've come to hear more about Jesus' Sermon on the Plain. Perhaps. You know, you could have stayed in bed, right? No one would have blamed you. It was a little windy out there this morning. But you did get out of bed, right? So that you could learn more about what Christ is calling us all to do with our lives and in our world. Still, you could have skipped church and gone out for breakfast at least. A lot of people like to do that on a Sunday morning. Still do both. That's the attitude. I like that, Lori. And this is exactly, it feeds right into the line I'm about to say. But you said to yourself, breakfast can wait. Right, Lori? Breakfast can wait. I'm choosing to join in this holy time. This holy time that I may feast on Christ's words. How's that? Is that resonating with you? Is that perhaps a reason why you're here? So even though it's the middle of February, even though you could have stayed in bed where it was warm, even though you're hungry, you chose to join us. You chose to join us. And that's a good thing. For together we will learn more about God's love. Together we will grow in our faith. And together we will learn what we may do to better follow God. Right? Let us pray. Steadfast God, ageless and mysterious, you are beyond our holding, yet we are not beyond your care. You are not confined by the language we use to describe you, yet you unlock the tongues of the voiceless to declare your works. You have created us in the image of yourself, yet you are not distorted by our frailty, and never are you diminished by our doubts. You will be God. In all ways, you will be God. And for this assurance in life, we are grateful. Now open us to embrace the place in the world you prepare for us. Open us to the journey we are promising to take with you. Let it be so. Amen. And now Natalie is here to have a little chat with our kids. Come on up, Natalie.
Well, good morning. Actually, Natalie is not here. My name is Super Awesome. Yep, that's my real name. I'll be filling in for Miss Natalie today. So, I'm a superhero, if you couldn't tell. And not to brag, but I do know all the other superheroes. Yep, I know Spider-Man, the Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow. Yeah, it's a great time. And we all fight crime together. We all fight our enemies with all of our different superpowers, and it's pretty awesome. So Natalie left some notes for me here. Wait, what? Apparently, Jesus, aka the coolest guy of all time, says not to fight your enemies. According to Luke 6, verse 27, it says, "But I say to you who hear, love your enemies. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you." Whoa. Jesus, you're blowing my superhero mind. Do good to those who hate you? Let me see this again. Did I read correctly? Oh, okay. All right, this makes a little more sense. See, this is actually quite a simple commandment, but it's pretty tough to follow, right? So Jesus wants us to love our enemy, and I guess that's what it takes, right? And as a superhero, I have to do whatever it takes. So if it takes loving my enemy to show God's love, then I guess that's what I'm doing. And you know what? I think that being good to your enemies is probably the coolest superpower that I can have. And I have a lot of superpowers, by the way. Okay, so people that are bad in my life, people that get on my bad side, I've got to show them my good side. Okay, I can do that. Speaking of showing your good side, I hear that this church is full of goodness. So Natalie wanted me to pass on the message that you guys have all been your own kind of superheroes to the community. See, last year we raised about $650 for the downtown mission through Coldest Night of the Year. This year, we are currently at the total of $1,225. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So there's actually a whole week more that we can donate, all the way up to this Saturday. So there's still plenty of time. And I hear it's super easy. You just go to riversideunitedchurch.ca, right there on the home page. You can click on the Coldest Night of the Year link and donate right from your couch. So I think I'll do that right now.
Are you coming back? No,
Oh, no.
You can stay there.
No,
I
retired.
love this message. That's fantastic.
All done fighting crime for the day.
Fantastic. Eh? Please join me now in a prayer of confession, trusting that God always hears our every word. We are not perfect. We fall. You pick us up, we stumble. You find us a footing, we falter. You are our rock, we waver. You are our guiding light, we break down. You put the pieces back together. Be there, O Lord, to help us to be our very best. Amen. Now take to heart these wonderful words of assurance. We have reason to rejoice because we live in God's world. We have reason to spread joy because we are God's people. We have reason to share happiness because we are God's church. We have reason to celebrate because we live in God's world. Indeed, we do live in God's world, accepting, free, and beautiful. Listen now, and please hum along if you wish, as Arlene plays the first verse of hymn number 661, Come to My Heart. And though we're still not permitted to sing yet, the lyrics of the hymn will be up on the screen for you to enjoy. Arlene? Thank you. Beautiful. Now, just to let you know that the scripture passage Arlene is about to read is a continuation of Jesus' sermon on the Great Plain that I introduced to you last week. As with the Beatitudes, the verses you will hear describe more about how we must live our lives as followers of Jesus Christ. So reading now from the book of Luke, chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. Arlene?
But I say to you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask them for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, running over will put into your lap, for the measure you give will be the measure you get back.
And Arlene will now play verse 2 of Come to My Heart. Before I begin, just thought I'd bring to your attention a note or a letter that was received by the church, I guess a few days ago, and it was just brought to my attention this morning. I thought I'd read it to you because I want to make you aware. Religion and politics do not mix. I do not want to hear political comments, commentary, or rhetoric from the pulpit. I don't want to hear opinions and American or Canadian politicians about, American or Canadian politicians, even if they align with my views. Personal political views should be made outside of the church. Thank you. And it was unsigned. So, I am so happy to get feedback. I love it. You don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. But the fact that somebody in the congregation, at least one person, was engaged, makes me feel great. Thank you for that message. Will I stop preaching against politics, against my views or views in politics? Absolutely not. A minister has three voices: a pastoral voice, care for the congregation; a priestly voice, presiding over the sacraments; and the prophetic voice. The prophetic voice that will take every opportunity to speak out against injustice as Jesus Christ himself has done. And being a called and ordained minister of Christ, that is my duty, and I will continue. I am so happy to have opportunity to speak back against the loud voices of the evangelical church and other right-wing leaning churches that are certainly not shy to speak their mind. So in true United Church fashion, I will speak back. You don't have to agree with me, as I said before. Just be engaged. Come to your own conclusions. Now, the passage Arlene just read, it's a palatable passage, isn't it? Not. That was a tough one. For many of us, hearing this text ranks about as high as seeing Brussels sprouts or mushy eggplant show up on our dinner plates. The passage is hard to swallow. In fact, many people agree that Jesus might have been better off just leaving this item off the menu entirely. After all, who wants to love your enemy? But Jesus did say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you and pray for those who abuse you. But the whole thing is disturbing, isn't it? It's a notion that flies in the face of convention and society's usual way of handling things. Our way of handling things. It's tantamount to saying, love the thief, the wife beater, and the child molester. Huh? Well, excuse me, just how am I supposed to do that? Well, to help answer this question, I thought we'd examine Jesus' words in the context of what we've all been facing these past few weeks, and that is the infamous trucker convoy, and see if we can't draw any fruitful conclusions. Now, I'm first to admit that with each passing news report that came out of Ottawa and Windsor and Surrey and Emerson and Coutts, the angrier I got. At the beginning, I likened the mobs to bowls of Kellogg's Fruit Loops. Daft, stupid, and loopy. It wasn't long, though, before I dropped that image in favor of another, even more dehumanizing. Like others, I now saw the protesters as occupiers, swastika-waving bigots who showed little or no respect for people of other races, gender identities, or religions, who showed no concern whatsoever for the well-being and the freedom of their fellow citizens. Freedom for me, but not for thee. I saw these occupiers as hating who we were, and so I thought that I'd return the favor. Now, hate may be too strong a word, but for certain, I didn't want to be their friend. I was tired of their rhetoric. I was tired of them. I started thinking also that society as we know it may well be collapsing before our very eyes. With all the division and the growing disrespect that people were showing toward others, I could see that the common bond that once forged a basis of unity for Canadians was disintegrating before us. I saw that despite our best science, a small minority of people were inexplicably refusing vaccination, thereby overcrowding our hospitals and threatening everyone. In effect, keeping us all in this endless cycle of pandemic. Now that is disrespect, I thought. Couple this with the fact that the majority of Republicans in the U.S. now promote the big lie. And the effects of this are creeping into Canada at an ever-increasing rate. Last week I saw on a CBC report from Ottawa a banner hanging from the side of a transport truck, urging everyone to make Canada great again. Now, where did that idea come from? Armed militias stand on the ready. Right-wing cable news outlets and social media sites shamelessly broadcast untruth and conspiracy theory. And thousands upon thousands of people are just eating it up. The list goes on. Increasing attacks on Asians, blacks, Muslims, Jews, LGBTQ folk, and women. Cruel dictators around the world are being celebrated. Kids are killing kids in schools. A memorandum of understanding is drafted by protest organizers urging the overthrow of a duly elected government in Canada. A cache of long guns, pistols, magazine rounds, and body armor is seized at a border crossing. And we're supposed to clap our hands when Bezos and the other bozos of the billionaire class revel in their own spaceships. How much of this can we stand? And why is it happening? Professor Carl Krieg, in his article, The Collapse of American Society, points to the obvious, claiming that the benefits and goods of society are not being shared. Surprise, surprise. The rich and powerful have taken most of them, leaving mere crumbs for those who struggle the most. This thievery is contributing to the demise of democracy, Krieg argues. The poor and the powerless have been stripped of so much that they are in desperate search of salvation. And politicians and protest organizers, they know this. And they stand ready to fill the breach, whether or not their actions will benefit society over the long haul. Could this be a critical factor underlying all the turmoil that we are witnessing? The wealth divide. I'm throwing that out there. And there's something else at play as well. In every country, I don't know if you've noticed this, in every country, or every group of culturally similar countries, put it that way, there are ideologies that form a social glue. These are what you might call a society's shared perspective, or worldview, if you may. Take, for example, Western Europe during the Middle Ages. For centuries, the Roman Catholic Church imposed upon its people the order, the social norms, and the quote-unquote proper thinking it saw fit. So call it society's worldview. Now, closer to home, the early European immigrants to Canada. When they landed, they were highly motivated by what appeared to them to be the unlimited resources of a new continent. And westward expansion, it followed, under what society thought at the time was divinely inspired manifest destiny. For better or for worse, it was the common perspective that shaped the culture's view of reality. That's what people thought. And by the time the 20th century rolls around, two principal beliefs had taken hold. the Canadian dream, number one, and the notion of a white/Christian Canada. The dream was that anyone could climb the ladder of success. It was a dream that, let's face it, gave hope to those who were struggling economically. And because we thought we had the God-given right to rule creation, we could take whatever we wanted. What's more, we considered ourselves a nation favored by God. A Christian God, of course, who empowered white people. Now here we go. There's no doubt that these beliefs are fading in the minds of millions of Canadians, whether consciously or not. And what we're witnessing now is a campaign by the extreme right to agitate these millions of minds by mourning the loss of the white/Christian Canada. Blaming the loss, of course, on immigrants, Jews, and Muslims. And the Canadian dream? Well, the right never mentions that it is they, the rich, the corporations, the powerful, who took away any vestige of the dream that might have remained. More for me and crumbs for you, they continue to promote. So gone then in millions of minds is the Canadian dream, especially amongst the young, that to everyone who worked hard would come success. And gone is the falsehood of a white/Christian Canada bestowed by God, conceived by the founding white settlers and reserved for their descendants. And for that part, I say, thank God. Of course, realizing now that they are losing these images, or better yet, these illusions, the millions are encouraged to fight the loss and follow fascist leaders who promise a return to the fictional golden era. An era, they say, when Canada was great. Make Canada great again, they preach and screech to the dream-hungry masses. And what do we have? What have we gained? Nothing but a street littered with hate crimes, lies, empty Timmy's cups, big trucks, jerry cans, bouncy castles, illegal blockades, and insurrection. So what can we do about this situation? First, we must acknowledge that this is a complicated issue beyond all imagination, and there's no easy fix. It will take time to make even the slightest progress. Second, I think we must separate in our own minds the various groups that made up the convoy. Because what motivates each group to participate may be very different. And if we want to stop hating one another and instead start building bridges between us, then we'll have to try harder to understand each other, right? What complicates the issue further, of course, is the fact that no one is a member of just one group. Humans are complicated, of course, and so the way they affiliate with one another is just as complicated. But to begin our analysis, though, let's first acknowledge that not every protester is a fascist. Right? Not everyone is an anarchist. Not every protester writes a memorandum of understanding, right, outlining his or her desire to overthrow a duly elected government. Not everyone is intending to do violence. We witnessed that this weekend. Not everyone is eager to reach for a weapon. But those that are need to be stopped. Those that are need to be charged swiftly and without prejudice or favor with any and all offenses they commit, and they must suffer the consequences of their actions. Here I'm thinking mostly of protest organizers, hate mongers, and those big dark money donors. Many of them from foreign lands. Technically, everyone who participates in an illegal blockade can be charged under the new act, the Emergencies Act. But really, charging the more peaceful protesters and the small donors, well, that may end up undermining any future attempt to reunify. So I'm not sure that's wise. Now, we know from the placards being waved that some of the protesters are anti-vaxxers. Unfortunately, as I said before, they're long past due getting the necessary and science-based information needed to make their proper decision. I suspect they've been digesting platefuls of myths and disinformation instead. And again, the result is the overcrowding of our hospitals and the ongoing threat to us all. In effect, keeping us all in that endless cycle of pandemic. So what must we do to break through to them? Arrange a visit for every anti-vaxxer to a COVID ward? Hold TV town halls, perhaps, explaining matters? I don't know. Organize televised debates? Just thinking out loud. Make it unlawful for social media platforms to provide mis or disinformation that can be shown to cause physical harm? That seems like a logical first step. How about regulate social media algorithms that operate, quote unquote, under the covers to supply this disinformation? How about this? Make it law that every news anchor, television host, talking head, or commentator be forced to provide a full retraction at the beginning of their next show of any lie proven by independent fact checkers to have been told. Wow, would that be refreshing. There's so much to consider, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? You scarcely know where to begin. Of course, some of the people participating in the convoy are obviously unvaccinated truckers, though I suspect they've always been in the minority. Federal vaccine mandates aren't keeping them from crossing the border. Even if Ottawa dropped their mandates, the United States hasn't. The truckers still won't be able to cross. Hello? What I don't understand is the fact that truckers are in high demand. Can you believe it? Jobs are plentiful. So here's a thought. If the truckers are unwilling to get vaccinated, why don't they drive within Canada for a stretch? Forget about the border. You can easily get a job within Canada. After all, the vaccine mandates will soon be over. So why are they wasting our time and money doing this? I don't get it. But then there are those in the protest who form another group. And they're not a distinct group for certain, but they are worth mentioning separately, I think. Because this is sad. Within this group are the ones who either lost their jobs due to COVID, or were forced to work at low-paying, frontline jobs at great risk to their own health. Many of them couldn't afford daycare, even if daycare was available. By decree, they couldn't send their kids to school. Many of them didn't own computers, or even felt qualified themselves to teach their children. Many couldn't pay their rent or adequately feed their families. These are the working class people who helped the affluent navigate COVID rather easily, didn't they? But at great risk to themselves and for little pay. And in a small way, think about it, with this trucker convoy, their voices are being heard. Probably for the first time in their lives, the invisible ones are tasting a wee bit of power and control, even if only for a nanosecond. This protest is not about mandates or the overthrow of a government, as it is about not having a voice, about not feeling heard. It's about being left behind, further behind. It's about being counted among the millions of minds poisoned by disinformation, distortion, and hate. As it is about not being able to navigate change. That's what it's really about, I think. And again, you may agree or disagree. That's entirely up to you. So what can we do to help? To begin, can we not at least take some of the corporate welfare doled out to companies in the form of subsidies, like the oil companies, and redistribute it, perhaps, right, to some education and training programs that will improve the lives of working people? Is that not a possibility? Can we not support subsidized college tuition? Can we not ensure an adequate supply of affordable daycare spots? Can we not promote vocational counseling in a bigger way to help these people transition through the change into the 21st century? Can we not, please, can we not at least try to give people back their dream? Which brings me around full circle to what Dr. Krieg has long argued: the benefits and goods of society are not being shared. The rich and the powerful have taken most of them, leaving mere crumbs for those who struggle the most. I'm sure you've read during the COVID crisis, many CEOs, corporate CEOs, received huge salary and stock option increases. Corporations have enough profit, enough cash on hand to buy back stock. Good Lord. Am I being too political? I haven't even begun. Because it's not the case for the 71-year-old widow working the cash at Timmy's. Her small wage increase will barely afford her a box of 12 donuts at the end of the week. The wealth divide is huge, folks, and it's increasing by the hour. And it's tearing the fabric of our society apart. So, if the Canadian dream is dying its slow death, and if white Christian Canada is now only a myth, then what are we to do to help people cope with the huge change that has been thrust upon them? And how are we to keep our cool in the midst of it all? That's the challenge. How are you going to keep your cool? I say to you, there is a way. There is a way for us to function in harmony as a society rather than disintegrate from within. And here it is. First, on a personal level, we can say, love yourself. Accept who you are, a child of God. And as such, grow, advance, and open your minds to new ways of looking at things. Can't children of God do that? Aren't they worthy of that? And on a social level, we can say, follow the essential teaching of all time. That's the reason I'm up here every Sunday morning. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Transcends all religions. We've all been caught up in a huge vortex of change. You know it, I know it. And the pandemic has brought much of it to light. The disparities, the anger, the frustration, that's what we're seeing. Some of us are coping better than others. Let's face it, that's what it is. And some of us have been luckier than others. Let's be real. Can we not learn from each other's experience? Can we not help each other walk the proverbial road? Now, folks, it certainly won't be easy. We'll need to talk more with one another. We'll need to talk. We'll need to evaluate what we hear. We'll need to make some suggestions. We'll need to hear some suggestions. And then talk some more. It'll take time, and it's going to take one heck of a lot of patience. It'll take setting our pride and our egos aside. It will mean, folks, taking Jesus' words to heart. Love your enemies. Love your adversaries. Right? Do good for those who hate you. What did Natalie say? Show them your good side. Pray for those who abuse you. Martin Buber is one of my favorite philosophers. He argues that human beings are not to treat one another as its, but rather as thous. Thous. Imagine that. Thous. None of us are mere bits of wood or scraps of rusty metal. None of us are objects or tools to be used as a means to an end. Rather, each one of us is the subject of a sentence. The subject of a sentence. Each one of us is a brilliant color in the rainbow. A divinely imaged thou. Natalie, you're a thou. Susan, you're a thou. Marianne, you're a thou. Nina, Seabird, all of you, each one of you, thous. You're worthy of respect, you're worthy of dignity, and you're worthy of honor. And as a thou, each one of us is to respect all the other thous with whom we come into contact. And of course, mutual respect between two people naturally translates to mutual respect between groups, even those that hold vastly different points of view. And if it is mutual respect that we achieve, then isn't it love for our enemy that we're showing? It won't be easy, but I am convinced we can do it. We can do it. Loving our adversaries starts with talking to them. And we're going to have to listen to them. We're going to have to understand what they're saying. Respecting the fact that they're worthy of their own point of view, as we all are. So let me sum up with this. Trust me that this is not some pie-in-the-sky solution. What it is, I think, is a practical solution for survival. It's achievable, if only in small chunks at a time. But here I ask, what is the alternative? If we cannot realize that love for self and love for other is the only way to survive, if we don't get that, then we're in danger of losing everything. Now, Brussels sprouts, anyone? Arlene, verse 3, come to my heart, Lord Jesus. Please join me now in prayer. Loving our adversaries is a hard teaching to follow. Some citizens block borders, some block sleep with their blaring horns. Other citizens gather across the street from these, countering their protest. The insults being hurled at each other cannot be repeated in polite company. Still, Jesus teaches us to love our adversaries. Social agency budgets are cut and defense project budgets are greatly increased. Sentences for convicted criminals are increased and new prisons are built. Older persons are exploited for selfish gain, and boys and girls are physically and sexually abused. Still, Jesus teaches us to love our adversaries. It's a hard teaching to follow. But Jesus says, bless those who curse you and pray for those who mistreat you. Loving our adversaries is a hard teaching to follow. Some who are unemployed are ignored, and others just out of college face indifference and rejection. Some older and challenged persons in care are not respected, and younger ones face bullying. Some patients are kept waiting for a diagnosis or essential treatment. Still, Jesus teaches us to love our adversaries. It's a hard teaching to follow. But Jesus says, bless those who curse you and praise for those who mistreat you. We take a moment now, God, to pray for those in our church, our family, and our friendship circles who are sick. Some who have lost loved ones are told to end their grieving or get over their loss. Still, Jesus teaches us to love our adversaries. Some view the rites and traditions of the church as old-fashioned, and some make fun of them. Some criticize church leaders behind their backs. Some see the church as only a local faith community and resent the fact that money is being sent to missions or to the national church. Loving our enemies is a hard teaching to follow. But Jesus says, bless those who curse you and pray for those who mistreat you. It's a hard teaching to follow. We know that. It's part of our own experience. Friends have betrayed us and let us down. Loving our enemies is a hard teaching to follow. There are those family members who run us down behind our backs. Loving our enemies is a hard teaching to follow. There are persons at work or in our social groups who chip away at our self-worth. Loving our enemies is a hard teaching to follow. And there is a part of us that refuses to believe that we have talents to be used in fresh and exciting ways. And because there is that dark part within us, we are ready to find and love the enemy within that thrives on uncertainty, doubt, and fear. Loving our enemies, including the one within, is a hard teaching to follow. Yet Jesus says, bless those who curse you and pray for those who mistreat you. Amen. The closing hymn of our service is "Oh for a World," sung by Grosse Pointe Memorial Church Virtual Choir across the river in Michigan.
Oh,
You have called us all to the way of life, to the way of justice, and to the way of compassion. Give us eyes to see need. Give us courage to create change. Give us love to offer welcome. And wherever you lead us, dear Lord, go with us. Be well, be safe, and as I like to say, get your booster shots, don't delay. And remember, most of all, love your neighbor as yourself. Go in peace.